All right. How are there, brothers? How are there, listeners? Hello. Forest brothers are back at it like we never left. You know the vibes. You know the vibes. It's been a minute. But as you know, 2023. It's a year of many changes, many transitions. But you know, we're trying to be more consistent. So keep a lookout. We're gonna try. But things are changing. Schools are starting to start. Work is working. Everything anyway in general. But what's good, boys? Good to see your faces again. What's up there, Sangi? What's good there, Mangoro? I was supposed to say hello to the love listeners out there and give them a little love to make. I'm sure they missed you guys, so I'm sure they cannot wait to hear your lovely voices. I'll throw it over to the boy Sangi there, who's looking quite cute, and then I'll throw it to the boy Mangoro to say let's those.
Hello, dear listeners. Welcome back. You are with the Forest Brothers podcast. Yeah, it's been a minute. It has been a minute. Man, I've been busy. Man, I've been working. Man, I've been studying. I'm a grad student now. And yeah, things are different. I tell you what's the same though. Arsenal is still killing it. Still tearing it up. Great win yesterday. I'm sure the boys enjoyed that. And yeah, we can't wait to get into all that and more with you guys today. So without further ado, gents, let's get into it.
What's up, listeners? Forest Brothers Podcast back with another bang. We're trying something different now. It's a new month, so you should look out for us on all platforms, hopefully. But I'd like to say thank you to all the listeners who've been with us, and hopefully will continue with us on this lovely journey that is the Forest Brothers Podcast. As I always mention, the Forest Brothers Podcast it's bigger than us. It's for the listeners. It's all for our listeners out there. So I'd like to give them a shout out, every single one of them watching from all over the world, even our listeners out in Romania. I hear we have some people out there in Romania, there in Bucharest. So shout out to those people actually. But anyways, yeah. As much as I'm not the presenter, I'll hand it over to the presenter to get the show on the road.
Easy. And indeed, Mangoro, to our Romanian followers and Romanian listeners, we love you. Please do keep tuning in. Thank you so much for lending your ear to the Forest Brothers podcast. And to what Samson is saying, this is my time to actually humbly brag that Spurs is currently second in the Premier League, and Arsenal is fifth. So don't listen to that brother and act like he's there riding on number one. Nah. We're actually on top. We're cooking. um, anyways, going ahead with our program here. So, we kind of want to close out, as you may not know or may know, the transfer window for the Premier League closed a couple of days ago. So now all the transfers in the Premier League are done, except maybe for I think the Turkish one is still open, and the German one as well. So you might see other, English players potentially moving out. We might talk about Mo Salah. That might even be the first thing we might even chat about. Like Mo Salah, I know the Saudis want to buy the boy, and I heard they're putting together a $200 million deal to get the boy to play in Saudi. But Klopp is holding fast onto the boy. So we might have to see how far that goes. I don't know when the Saudi window closes, if one of you boys knows. But is it over, the Salah and Saudi transfer saga, or is it potentially something that might still happen? I'm not sure which one of you knows about that, but I'm curious.
According to a reliable source, I'll plug him, Fabrizio Romano, Mr. Here We Go. The Saudi window is actually still open, I believe, for the next, I think it's a week after the European window closed, so probably the 7th. I hear that the Saudis, Al Ittihad to be specific, sent a delegation over to England to go and speak to Salah and the broader Liverpool hierarchy to see what they can strike up with a deal, because not a lot of people know this, but from what I'm hearing from reliable Liverpool sources is that the Salah deal is hinged upon Al Ittihad trying to get ahead of the situation right now, even if it'll cost them 200 million, because apparently next year Al Ahly are the team actually in position to get Mo Salah from from Liverpool for more money. Apparently, they have more money, which is actually very interesting, given that apparently these four teams in Saudi are actually all managed by the same people. So it's like they say, okay, you two go here, you two go here, and then it's all coming from the same pool of money. Honestly.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So do you?
honestly,
Yeah, actually, Simon, I was gonna ask, do you think he'll go for 20 milli? Should Liverpool take the deal, or should they wait for more money next season from the other team? Who knows? They might offer up 400 millis. Is that what they're waiting for?
man, I would have taken the 150. So that just shows you how much I know, bro. Like I clearly know nothing because I would like when they showed me 150 mil for Mo Salah, I'd have been like, bro, it's been real, it's been deep, but yo, please leave. Cause like that's a lot of money, and he's like 31. Um, I mean, and I understand like the perspective from inside Liverpool. It's like we could challenge again, because that's why you want to keep your best player. You want to challenge, but objectively speaking, I don't think they are going to challenge. So I would sell. I would just sell and rebuild, and refocus on like what the next 3-4 years are going to look like. Because 200 mil could go a long way. Like they spent like what 150 or 120, 130 this summer without any major outgoings. Most of them were like for free or like lower fee deals. 200 mil cash straight up. I mean, you could do a lot, man. You could do a lot with that. So I would consider it. But then again, I know nothing. I'm not a director of football. So
How much did they buy Salah for again?
I think 30 or 35. So
Yeah,
it's
around that
insane
region.
profit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. And he is 31. And even if I was Salah, I'm like, my guy, I'm about to create so much generational wealth for my kids. Because what is his salary gonna be? They're probably paying him at least a million a week. I can imagine.
1.5 M, which is actually more than what Cristiano and Benzema are actually on in Saudi.
Because
1.5
he's a better
million
player.
a week, right?
Yep.
Bro, that's what I'm saying. Times 12. My guy is earning at least like what 15 million a year. That's madness. Like, if I was Salah, like this, what do you still have to do at Liverpool? They've already won the Champions League. They won the Premier. Did they win the Premier League? No, they did, right?
They have,
So
yeah.
you've kind of won everything in the UK. Like, what more do you actually want? I'd actually leave. Like, I don't know why Salah right now is acting like, yeah, Liverpool is home. This is it for me. Like, also, where's Mane? Is Where's gonna be going where Mane is, or is Mane at the other team?
Mane is on Ronaldo's team.
Al
So,
Nassr.
Yeah.
also, so Salah's going. Who's Salah? The team that was Salah's going. Who's
Al
there?
Ittihad?
Al
So that's,
Hattihad. That's where Benzema, Kante.
oh, Al Ittihad.
I don't know the other characters, but those are the two I
Oh,
know.
okay.
I
Interesting.
think
Yo, Saudi.
Carrasco maybe is the other one.
I think he's going to Al Shabab actually.
Oh, Al Shabab. Okay.
Yeah.
Saudi might actually get lit. You know what? If Saudi actually like do that thing where like they release like an SPN, unless if there is one already and I just don't know about it. But if I was Saudi, I would release like an app where you can watch all their games. Because right now I don't even know to find them. Like I don't know what time they play. All that stuff. Like if they release something like an app where it's like extra Saudi games, or they make a deal with both Apple or Netflix and actually like show Saudi games, that might actually be the best financial move they can make. Because then we can watch the games like easily. So I don't know if they have that already, and I just don't know about it, or I don't know. Maybe you boys know more than I do. I don't know.
I'd
Yeah,
say. Go ahead.
I was gonna say like countries from that region usually use beIN Sports to stream matches. I'm not sure if the Saudi League has a contract with beIN Sports. I doubt it or if they did, they're probably going to try and renegotiate because they did not have these players when that deal was signed for sure. So, but yeah, it's probably something for the major broadcasters to look at because now you actually have stars people want to watch. So we'll see.
Yeah, and also like I'd say just to add on to that, I'm pretty sure it's coming because like with this whole Saudi movement, people think of it as just a thing where they're just signing players and offering them ridiculous wages. But there's a bigger picture at hand here, and as much as it's about like improving their image, it's also huge on tourism. And most of these clubs, pretty much the Saudi clubs don't need money, but like just viewership, getting numbers, basically, they're pretty much cooking up something. I know the Saudis are always doing something like in terms of like just trying to get rights to like not only stream games but like to actually show their games globally because I don't know if actually a lot of people know this, but the head of the technical director of the Saudi Premier League, not even a Saudi club, very interesting place that Saudi plays. That there's a technical director in the Saudi league. Is actually Michael Emanalo, who used to be the head of, I think this head of technical development or something like that at Chelsea back in the day, and he was saying that in the next 2 years, Saudi wants to take over and compete with like the best leagues in the world, like in terms of like just broadcasting and things like that, because they potentially might have a team in the Champions League in 25. Funny enough.
So they're trying to expand the Champions League to also be like in Saudi, or just because Champions League is Europe, right? You
Pretty much.
so when does Saudi get in there? What are they gonna call it? They can't still call it the UEFA Champions League. They'll have to call it something. So unless they
Uh,
start adding like other teams, because this is what I was telling you, brothers. Like I think you said they do this with the Club World Cup, but that item is like one game and it's boring. But if they actually start like bringing champions from Saudi, Africa, India, although I don't think they do that. But something like a more global type competition, almost like a mini World Cup, but like the champion clubs, and they actually do a competition over a long period of time. Maybe they call it the World Champions League. I don't know, something like that. Is that what they're gonna
that's the
do,
Club World
or
Cup. That's the Club World Cup.
Yeah, and it's coming. It's coming back 2025, I think.
No, I think the Saudis have paid their way into like getting themselves in the UEFA Champions League. I think it'll still be called that, but it'll be like an inclusive kind of thing. It's like you know how the companies do DE and I. It'll be something like that.
some diversity item? Maybe.
Oh man, I was gonna
I don't
say,
know.
I'm not sure about the likelihood of that because, like, I mean, at least as long as the current UEFA president is in Muslim suffering, he recently came out and said Saudi Arabia clubs will never compete in the Champions League because they're not European. I don't know if he's going to change his stance on that because we've seen a lot of people as they've dealt with Saudi ownership groups in different sports, whether it's wrestling, professional wrestling or golf or Formula One. People have had stances like that, like, hey, we will never deal with Saudi Arabia. And then, the money comes in and people are like, hey, maybe we will deal with Saudi clubs. So we'll see how that goes. Because clearly the guys have the money and they are willing. So it's just about like what price um, is going to be acceptable for these officials to accept them in the Champions League.
I mean, because what you to say no. So I think on the last bit of the Saudi thing, what is the number one sport in Saudi Arabia right now? Is it actually soccer or is it something else? And like, do they actually have fans that come to the stadium to watch the Disky games, or is it more like a few other farmers there, maybe some international folk who actually watch soccer, maybe some rich people want to go see Ronaldo, and that's about it. And like the stadium is at like maybe there's like a $20,000, 20,000 capacity stadium, but only like maybe 5,000 people come watch. Like, is it that kind of thing, or do people actually come and watch these games?
So there are stadiums like well built stadiums. In terms of like just infrastructure. I think mainly for the ones I've seen are like the main four clubs. Well, technically I've seen five. So Al Ittihad, Al Nasser, Al Ali, and Al Hilal are the four big teams in that league. And then there's Gerard's team called Al Ettifaq, where it's just all his Liverpool friends. They're just hanging out. So those ones, yeah, they do have like I'd say fans. Like if you follow them, most of the stuff you like you just catch highlights on YouTube. There's usually fans like probably like 20, 25,000, some even less, because like now there's the European stars that people want to see. It's like when Lionel Messi came to MLS, games were literally selling out every single time for this Inter Miami team. So whereas before, literally people are pretty much just sitting alone in the stadium, but now the stuff is selling out. It's selling like hotcakes. So that's the bigger picture. But then, like I'd say, like also something to keep in mind with like the Saudi league is this is like a ploy. It's already like a tactic for them because when you look at them now from 2023, 2025, they literally want to put in a bid for 2030. So this is them building rapport with like just global football across the world, so that once they get to that point where they're in a good position, they can actually support like their bid, basically. Because just to give you another reference, so there's as the African correspondent here at the Frost Brothers podcast, the CAF's Super League, so the best team in the Champions League and the Confederations Cup, which is i.e. the Europa League in Europe, is actually going to be played in Saudi Arabia next year or this year between Al Ali of Egypt. So there's two Al Alis. This is Al Ali Egypt. And then a team from Algeria called USM Alger or something like that. So that pretty much, when you now think about it, a big picture, and you think about the Netflix documentary that played, I think, a couple of years ago, you soon start to learn that there's a bigger picture at play. Because now, if you host this, you build good rapport with the CAF president, Patrice Motsepe. And then now, when Saudi is asking for a vote for 2026, they know they have the African Confederations vote, like all the number of seats. And then they're pretty much going to reach out to other places as well and pretty much do the same thing. So it becomes a bigger picture than just thinking about it in terms of like some short termism, but more of a long term strategy.
But do they need to do this though? Because Qatar wasn't doing that, but they got the World Cup last year. So did Saudi Arabia really need to do all this work to like spend all this racks and all these foreign players, grease some hands? Because I mean, Qatar got it. So, and USA is getting it. It's not like USA is doing that much. They just got Messi now, and like David Beckham is swimming in money more than he could, maybe more than he ever thought possible. But, again, so I'm just curious as to like, was it actually necessary, or could they just make their bid in 2030 instead of spending $20 million on Salah? My guy, 20 mil, some officials, buy them a mansion somewhere in Florida, and you're nice. Could have actually been cheaper. And then you just spend all that other money instead of spending on all these star players. You build your stadiums and you're good to go.
Well, it's not just about convincing officials, it's about convincing fans, because you have to sell the dream to the fans who are going to watch the World Cup. And if the fans don't really, because right now, like all the stuff that's against Saudi Arabia is that, how women are treated, or how repressive the society is, Sharia law, and what's his name? What's like the ruler, the prince? I know he has there's some stuff there, is all I'm saying. All that stuff is around us, and all they're trying to do is like do things that make you, I guess, forget all that stuff, but also
sport washing. Is that what you're talking about?
In a sense, but it's also like, hey, because it's not like these countries are not going to change. Like Qatar is still Qatar. All the issues you thought Qatar had before the World Cup, it still has them, because you can't fix those in a year or overnight. So if you think Saudi Arabia is not friendly to the LGBTQ community, they're not going to be friendly by 2030. Like that takes a long time. Like the US is not friendly to the LGBT community, like completely, like universally. Like people still protest against gay people in the US, and people have been like campaigning for like years. So Saudi Arabia, what makes you think Saudi Arabia is going to be cool in 2030? Like they're not, but they're trying all these things to make sure people forget about it as much as possible when the time comes to vote. And so people can be like, instead of pointing at women not driving, they can point at, hey, look at this brand new stadium. Hey, look at Mo Salah. He plays here. Look at this statue of Ronaldo we created because he scored so many goals in our league. It's just misdirection, I feel. So, yeah.
But I'm just saying Qatar didn't do that. Qatar was just Qatar. And then they built the stadiums after they got the bid. So I'm just like wondering, like, what's the difference between Qatar and Saudi?
Although let's remember that Qatar got that deal when FIFA was still corrupt as shit. Like FIFA was like at its most corrupt when Qatar got that bid. So
Yeah. Like the number of people that actually left, like got fired from FIFA and arrested and things like that. Like you saw that. But then also it's two different strategies. It's like how you don't approach this, and like you've already spoken to a couple of people because this Saudi thing is not just them just throwing money at it because it's there's a bigger picture at play here because like they're now investing a lot in tourism and they believe sports, especially the World Cup and things like that, is actually the way to go because like with how the world is going net zero by 2030, like you see it in different sports like Formula One and all these other sporting codes out there. So and Saudi Arabia's biggest commodity is what? Is oil. And with the world moving away from oil, that's like their next big investment to stay ahead of the curve, so that they maintain all their millions. So now funneling the money. So pretty much they're investing in something that they hope will pay out in like a grand scheme, like in the next what 10 to 20 years, basically.
Yeah, I know that actually makes a lot of sense. Like if they, I didn't think about it that way. Like, oh, the world is trying to move away from non-renewable energy, and like, okay, what can we do now? So tourism, sports. If we're watching like if the Saudi Premier League is actually hot, and we're spending tickets to go over there, I guess that makes sense. I can see why people would do that. Like that makes sense to me. But okay, gents, sounds good. But yeah, so let's talk about like since the window just closed, just want to let's for the next few minutes here, let's just discuss a little bit about the incoming players that have come in from all the teams. Not we're not gonna This is not gonna be as long as the first episode. Don't worry, listener, but it's gonna be like maybe a much quicker version of that since we have some teams that really didn't do that much business in the last few weeks of the transfer window. So starting off, Arsenal, I think the only person that they got was David Raya on loan from Brentford. I'd actually ask Samson how you feel about that because Ramsdale has been catching all the games, but we all know that Ramsdale ain't perfect. And I actually think that Raya, on a decision making and consistent level of keeperisms, Raya is actually slightly better than Ramsdale, but that's my opinion. So I don't know how Arsenal or Arteta is actually working out, like how they're gonna do the whole Ramsdale Raya thing. Like, is Raya only gonna play Champions League and European other competitions like FA Cup, all that stuff, or does he have to fight Ramsdale for the top position? Like, how is that happening? Because Raya is a top-notch keeper, and I'm sure it has Ramsdale on his toes. So I don't know what your opinion is on that, Samson.
Can I add additional
Go ahead,
question
Mangor.
there? I had
Yeah.
additional question for you there, Samson, on like just I've been listening in the media people talking about like just your thoughts on like having essentially two number ones in goal and like what it does to like the overall team.
Yeah, well, I think all in all, like it kind of suits Arteta's thinking, where it's like he's always talking about people being pushed and people always having competition, not being comfortable. So it kind of aligns with what he's thinking there, and I see the sense of it. And I can also see why a competent replacement is needed because, like, I mean, Ramsdale, I love Ramsdale. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's great, and especially in big games, that's when you saw his quality. Like last year, there's a few games he saved us. The title race would have been over way sooner if it wasn't for him. But at the same time, like, he concedes some goals, and you're like, Aaron, like, what? Like, what? Like, I mean, for example, like the Rashford goal this past weekend, like, not completely his fault. You can say Saliba didn't close the angle well enough, whatever. But also, like, come on, like, I can see him in another game. Like, I promise you, away from home, he probably saves that, which is weird. Like, he has a horrific record at the Emirates, and I don't understand it. He concedes goals that he would never concede away from home at the Emirates. And you saw this again with Fulham. Again, not necessarily his fault, but why did he turn around? Like, he turned completely around and ran towards his goal as the guy was coming to him. I think it was Pereira. Instead of just like facing up and backtracking. Like, he does stuff like that makes you think, okay, maybe he needs more competition. So in that sense, I kind of understand the move, but yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic in terms of like how Arteta rotates them. I feel like it would have been better if we're still in Europa League and you're rotating two first team keepers. With the Champions League, it's a little different because like you'd imagine both of them want to play in the Champions League. So who knows? Like maybe Raya starts off in the group stage. Ramsdale does the the knockout rounds, and then they switch. I don't know, but I think at the end of the day, the keeper who is more consistent is going to play the most games, and it might not be Ramsdale, and that's just like the reality. Like if he keeps his level and cuts out some of the mistakes, he'll keep his position. If he has more lapses of concentration, like for example, last year against Southampton, a bird went on the pitch and he looked at the bird and they shot and it just went in and he was looking at the bird. Like if he does shit like that, like I'm sorry, you're gonna eat bench. Like you can't do that. So yeah, it's on him. Like it's up to them to compete and make the position their own. So that's all it is.
I do hope we'll get to see Raya perform because I like him. I really do like Raya. I feel like he's good. I really liked him at Brentford, and I'm actually surprised that Brentford allowed him to go to Arsenal. But I'm sure he wanted to go as well. So I mean, who would want to go play for one of the biggest teams in the UK, right? So that's understandable to me. Okay, moving on to Aston Villa. They Musa Diaby, we talked about last time. He's been doing really well. A good player that they bought. I'm really impressed by him. Like just his gameplay is so good and it's going to be really good for Aston Villa. But they also added on Clement Langlais from Barcelona. I don't know when he left Spurs, but thank God. So, and then we also have, I think they bought Zaniolo from Galatasaray and Rico Richards. I don't know who that person is, but that's who they got. They're doing pretty well right now. And I think maybe just adding on Langlais was just like an additional, like just we want what's that thing called? Just cover, like in case someone gets injured or something like that. He is a decent player, so at the end of the day. But yeah, good for them. Any comments on Aston Villa, or move on to the next team?
Just to add on to your squad depth thing there, Tyrone Mings did get injured against Newcastle at the beginning of the season, so
Yeah,
they did need like some experienced cover. And this was like the profile that was available, and it's a borrow situation, so you pretty much get him on loan for a season. If he's terrible, you don't have to keep him. He goes back to Barca, so it's kind of a win-win.
yeah, no, that's good for Aston Villa. I think they're doing really good business under Unai Emery. So I do see like if they keep doing what they're doing, because I mean, you saw Matty Cash and all those guys. Like, if they keep doing what they're doing, I think they'll be a top seven team, or even top six. Like, if they keep on. But anyway, moving on to Bournemouth, they got in Max Aarons from Norwich, Justin Clever. I think we talked about Clever last time. Tyler Adams from Leeds and Sinistera from Leeds. So, I mean, Sinistera is probably the better buy. I don't really rate Adams like that, but for a club like Bournemouth, those two purchases make sense. I hope it helps them. Bournemouth are actually not doing as horribly as I expected them to. I mean, I don't know if they've still been winning games, but you know what? They're not necessarily like too bad right now. I think they're even 16th. They haven't won a game, but I think they have drawn two of them. So yeah, they've drawn two games and they're 4 points. So maybe that addition might help them, but I still think that they're in contention for uh, relegation. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that soon. Any comment on Bournemouth, boys? Okay, cool. Brentford, they bought in Neil Mope from Everton on loan. I think in the last week. All the other players, all of the guys that they got in here, nothing to mention really. But yeah, they just have Mope. And Brentford have been doing pretty decently. They're doing well. So I think having an additional striker does help since it's just Mbuemo right now up there. And Visa, who's also been doing well. So I think just having the additional front person is a good deal, even though it's small pay at the end of the day. But he can be good if he wants to be. But yeah, any thoughts on Brentford?
Yeah, just one thing. I'm gonna like this must be the like this is the set of the most unclinical strikers of the league. Like Mbuemo, Wisa, Mope, and Sade, like guaranteed between them, you will get two big chances missed a game. Guaranteed. Like no questions asked. these guys are not clinical. Even though I have Wisa and Boyman in my team, but mostly because they work their asses off. And if they're playing a big team, that's almost guaranteed points. But Boyman's going to miss 3 chances and score 1 and get 9 points. But it is
I
what
don't know.
it
I
is.
don't think that's fair. I feel like Buemo is really like stepped up. Like any
I mean,
big
he works
chances
hard.
this season, he's done it. Yeah, I don't think he's missed any big chances this season, has he?
That's the thing. He scores like if you look at his goals, like this past weekend, he scored an amazing goal where like he picked the ball up, like his first touch, spin, does a straight sprint, shot. Like it looked like a world class finish. Like, and you're like, okay, that's a Premier League player. But then he'll miss a chance that you're just like, what? How? How the? And it's just he's one of those guys where it's like it almost seems like the harder the opportunity, the better he's gonna do. But like if it's too easy, he's just not gonna score. But I don't know. I don't know. To
Well, we've
me,
seen
they're
that with
not
a lot
playing.
of strikers, though. We've seen that, though, right? Like where sometimes we saw this with what was that Chelsea guy that they sold, the really fast one, the German dude. What was his name, Angoro?
Oh, Werner.
Werner, yeah. Where Werner, like
Yeah,
even Sterling had this problem where like if the opportunity is too easy, that's when they mess up. But like if it's just like on pure instinct, that's when they get it done. So that could be the case with Buemo, where it's just like if he has to think about it, it's gonna fuck it up. But like if it's actually just like, hey, get the disky en route, shoot, don't think about it. That's when like it actually works out. So I don't know if that's the case with him.
who knows, man? Hopefully it works out. I'm rooting for them. I hope they finish in the top 10.
I do too. I hope Tony. When's Tony coming back? Next year in Jan. I hope when Tony comes back, it even makes them even better. I pray for the best for my boy Tony. You know, I'm betting on him. So if we look at
That's
and
out
then
of
the
pocket.
next team,
Out of pocket.
I bet on the boy. I think next time we're talking about Brighton, I actually think that Brighton had probably the best business in the transfer window, or some of the best business. Because I keep saying this week in and week out, Brighton has the best scouting team probably in the world. Because those brothers, they recognize talent, and I think because we were talking about Man United earlier, where it's like it's a organizational thing, right? And I think at Brighton, the scouting team is trusted so heavily. They scout talent. They see somebody, they're like, hey, want to go get this guy? The ownership is like, go get them. There's no like, nah, or whatever. I think like as soon as good talent is like identified, they do not waste time because, as you may all know, Brighton got Ansu Fati from Barcelona on loan, and Fati was touted as the next Lionel Messi. Like everyone talks about this kid like he is a god there in Spain, and like I don't. He's pretty young as well, so I'm very very curious to see what Fati does moving forward for Brighton because they also just got Joao Pedro before, and I mean so I think and Julio, which is yeah, and I they got Noel Igor Julio, whatever. I don't think he's played it, but anyway, I think Ansu Fati was like the most record like or one of the biggest signings this time around. What did you boys think about that? Do you think this is gonna like make Brighton the team they need to be in terms of like strengthening them because they're a really good team? So Mangoro, what do you think about them taking Ansu Fati?
I'd say it's more. He'll probably play like as the number 10 because they kind of didn't replace McAllister as like that number 10. They do have Enciso, but Enciso's currently injured. Julio Enciso. This is someone else. So I think that's pretty much where they're going to play him as like a number 10 because like he's played predominantly on at the left wing for Barcelona and they currently do have Kara Mitoma there. So kind of having two left wingers were pretty good. It really doesn't make sense, but like I think with the profile they went for and like just trying to secure a replacement, and I believe do have like big hopes for like Simon Adingra to come through at some point like during the season because like if you follow like Kara Mitoma's story, he only like blew up like January, but like he had been there like the whole season, so like that time to acclimatize to like the living situation, the playing, different country and everything, and adjusting to that different types of coaching. I think that's going to be beneficial for him. So, like, probably, like I'd say, maybe this season would see a lot of Ansu, and then next year because they always do plan for like the following year. They do spend a lot of time actually thinking of that. So maybe next year when Simon Adingra is like 22, 23, we'll start to see more of him. Maybe Matoma may move on at some point, but it's smart business by the people over at Brighton.
Hey, maybe Ansu will like it so much there in Brighton, he's gonna be like, hey, I'm staying. Barcelona, I'm good. Keep me, I gotta stay here because it's vibey football. Like Brighton play excellent football. I think Brighton are like the next version of Man City, in my opinion. Like I just think they got it. I think that like Estupinian, you could say, is almost like that Kyle Walker. Like that man's output is crazy. You not think he's a defender. Like Estupinian is mad. And then, your Mitomas, and now you have this brother. Joao Pedro is going to be good. He's going to come good. Ferguson has got a hat trick this past weekend. He's been good. Just like consistency is his next thing, but I think he's going to be one to watch. Who did also, like, I mean, of course, the board James Milner just for control, but, I'm very excited for them.
Yeah, you should watch out. There's a guy called Carlos Baleba. He came in from Lille as a center mid. Apparently, he's the Caicedo replacement. So, what Brighton do, just for our listeners to know, they use a data-led approach to actually recruit their talent. So, Tony Bloom, the owner, actually has a history of actually building data-led machine learning algorithms that actually scout talent. He had a career in like betting and stuff like that, where he made a lot of money, and then he uses those same statistical models to identify players. That's why they can go and find your Julio Encisos, your Buonanottes, your Caicedos, your McAllisters, and they build a three-pronged structure where they do like I'd say a loan period where the player goes out on loan, and then they do an integration where they integrate slowly with the team, like what we're seeing with Simon Adingra, and then they do like a development where they sell. And there's a lot of continuation. So even like when Graham Potter left, they already identified their next coach. When Paul Stanley went to Chelsea, the head of like recruitment, they promoted from within and then started to fill the position within. So there's a lot of like continuity. That's how like they're able to do it. Southampton did it successfully back then, and Brighton are like the new age Southampton in terms of like just selling off your best talent and then bringing in like someone who's well versed in certain areas of the business as well as the footballing side led by Paul Barber.
Nah, that shit is smart. And Southampton used to kill it back in the day. I mean, that's why Liverpool took so many of their good players, right? But yeah, I mess with it. I love it from Brighton. But moving forward, Burnley, I don't think there's anything to talk about. So we are gonna skip that. Notable mention, they did get Aaron Ramsey from Aston Villa, which is interesting to me because Ramsey, I actually liked him. I haven't seen him yet at Burnley, but
Actually,
to be honest.
correction. This is his young. This is Jacob. Are you thinking of Jacob Ramsey?
Jacob Ramsey.
This
That's his brother?
his younger brother.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you for that point of correction, Mangoro. I'm sure people were going to be like, hey, what's this guy talking about? Okay. I didn't even know he had a younger brother. Okay. So moving on, we have Chelsea. They got Cole Palmer from Man City and Petrovic from New England Revolution. Is that a soccer team or is that a fan club or a book club? What is that, Mangoro? And what country is that even? What's wrong with you, Chelsea brothers? Huh?
So Georgia Petrovic he plays here in the MLS. So this is an MLS based team. So I don't know much about him, but it seems like they've done some sort of research on him. Apparently, he's going to challenge Robert Sanchez because he's also not the greatest. So he's more, apparently, from what I heard, but also like listeners should take this with a pinch of salt. Apparently, he was in the last 2-3 years, according to Brad Frieder, who is also American, he was the best keeper in the US, like in the MLS across the board. And we've already signed Gabriel Slonina from Chicago Fire, and he's already out on loan at Kazupin. So listeners will make their own judgment on if Petrovic is the answer or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
that's a sus comment. I'm saying that's sus because if he was the best keeper in the last 3 years, Arsenal signed Matt Turner 2 years ago, and he was the MLS Keeper of the Year when we signed him. So I'm calling BS on Brad Fiedel there. I think he sold y'all a dream, bro. I'm calling BS.
Yeah, I was gonna say actually that we need to not forget Moises Caicedo did join you brothers, and we've seen what that brother has been doing at Chelsea. What a shambolic first two games for him. Like I think it's been directly involved in all the goals that y'all have conceded in the last two games. Mongoro, maybe you want to speak on the boy Moises Caicedo. If you maybe you have some hope, maybe you don't. Maybe it's just first game jitters. Maybe it's gonna get better. Maybe it's not. But so far, it's looking like a flop, my boy.
So, just to give people context, Moises Caicedo is going to be a superstar. Like, that I can safely say right now. So, keep in mind when this entire transfer saga was happening, Moises Caicedo hadn't trained for like at least 2 weeks. And the point in time when Brighton set that deadline on that Friday of they need to sell him by that Friday when they're accepting bids, we were playing Liverpool that Sunday. I mean, we're playing, was it Liverpool? We're playing a game, I think, like that Sunday. So he pretty much didn't have time to, like, was it Liverpool or the West Ham game? But, like, actually, it was a West Ham game. It was a West Ham game. Just sorry to make a mistake there. But it was pretty much like a window of like 2 days. So it spent like at least a week and a half not training and not playing games, just chilling in a London hotel. And then you're telling me that that guy's going to come on in the 60th minute when he literally met his teammates on the day and he's going to do something special. I think, like, honestly, like, Poch shouldn't have thrown him in there. Like, that was just a mistake, like, throwing him in that game. But for him, like, I think he's going to come good. Like, it's about giving them time because, like, you look at the Chelsea team, like, literally from the Champions League winning team in 2021, Reece James, Thiago Silva, and Ben Chilwell were the only three to date that were in that squad. Everyone else is literally brand new. Like they just came this year and last summer. So you can tell that some of this stuff is going to take time. Like, but I do want to commend the Chelsea hierarchy. Like they did body Liverpool for some of their players. Like we did body them for Caicedo, number one. And while we were at it, we did take Romeo Lavia, like just to rub salt in the wound so that they could have a poor man's Endo. So, great business by the Chelsea hierarchy there. But like, for the most part, like, good business. I'd say just give them time. Like most of the signings, like they literally met each other like 3-4 months ago. Like there's not much they're gonna do in like the first 2 weeks of the season, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know why they actually threw him on. They should have given him some time then. If you're saying he didn't train and play for a week and a half, like why throw him on at West Ham when you all are like actually like trying to win the game and like I think you all have been losing, so that actually didn't make any sense to me. But I mean, let's see how that works out. But the other signing that y'all got that I actually have some vitriol for is your boy Nicholas Jackson. I think preseason was a lie. I think that brother's a sham. He's a scam. He's a fraud. I don't know where you got him. I don't know what he's about, but that man sucks. He's worse than Lukaku. His first touch is horrible. He just runs. All that man is just runs around and tries to make space, but no finishing. He gets a yellow card every single time. He gets me a single point in my FPL for like the last 2 weeks. Like that brother pissing. I cannot wait to wild card and get his ass out. I cannot wait. Mangoro, maybe even Samson. I don't know. Do y'all see something from that brother? Because I am not convinced. That brother is horrible, terrible even, and I don't know. I don't know if there's any hope for him.
You see, Nicholas Jackson has the Nunes gene. Whatever gene Nunes has, where like he gets into the box, he's about to shoot, that his legs just don't work. He has the same thing, and that just takes time. Like he's gonna need to just work on that in training. Like that's what it is. Like train, spend a couple years, just grinding, getting better. Because what else can you do? Like, and at least him, he's young. Nunes is like approaching like his peak. So hopefully he can sort that out. Also, he had a Fernando Torres miss this past weekend. I know Mongoro. I know you saw that. That was
Yes,
very
I saw
Torres-esque.
No, like I just don't understand why he was stretching for that chance. Just to give the listeners some context, he missed. It was like kind of open goals. Decided to stretch for a ball, and he looped it over the goal. When I thought he could have just used his instep and scored, but I think for him, like not having that creator, I think has also affected him. Hopefully, with Cole Palmer coming in, he looked pretty decent off the bench and Nani as well. So like having some creators around him because like Ben Chilwell as a left back. Like, I don't know why he's been playing left to wing. Like, he's not going to create chances for Jackson. And Sterling on the other side, he's. I think I've said my piece around Sterling, but for the most part, like, when you don't have the service and the chances you get are like literally have chances. And also, maybe he's just too excited to score and he doesn't have that composure that like all great strikers had in the Premier League, like the likes of Aguero and Rooney and Tevez and all those guys from like back in the day. Drogba is his idol, so hopefully, I'd say like for the most part, like don't expect much from like the Chelsea signings for like the rest of the year. Like from Chelsea, like literally, Poch is literally just going to be working on coaching the whole year. It's pretty much just starting preseason now because now he has the team and he's shipped out all the terrorists that he didn't want. So for the most part, like just forget about them this year, and also like the number of injuries like Chelsea currently have. I don't know what's happening there in the medical room, but for the most part, like don't think of Chelsea doing anything spectacular. Maybe this year, maybe start of like next January, heading into the second half of the season when Kunku comes back as well, and the players have started to learn each other's names. I don't even think there's so many of them. Like some of them don't even know who they're called. Like I'm pretty sure when Pochettino sees like David Washington, he's like, "Oh, who are you and what position do you play?" Like so, it's those kind of things. So like there's a lot of players, and there's some players that really shouldn't be playing, and over time, like Poch is going to start to see that some brothers literally give him nothing. Funny enough,
Yo,
I
just,
suppose, yeah, we'll have to see.
just to add on players Poch doesn't know. I know a few press conferences ago, they asked him about Malang Sarr. Had no idea what that brother was. Had no idea what the brother was. I told him that's the groundsman who would have believed you. He had no idea. And he was shook. Apparently he was training with them. He had no clue. I was like, oh, he was here? Okay.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Now I'm curious to see what happens there, man, at Chelsea because, yeah, I think definitely having those brothers. And funny enough, the other yellow card, I think was like every episode we're like we need to talk about refs because these refs in this Premier League are just disgusting. But also there is the new rule that I've heard that this season they're gonna be more stringent on the rule that if a player is asking for a yellow card for another player, they'll book you. And that's how Nicholas Jackson got his, I think, a yellow card in one of the previous games where like he was fouled and that person who fouled him actually deserved a yellow, but the ref didn't give it to him. And Nicholas was like, "Hey, yo, what the hell?" And then he got a yellow for that. It just, just that, hey. And then, so I was a little pissed about that. And I don't know why the ref didn't just give that other player a yellow card and instead give it to Nicholas Jackson. But just to point it out, just a note out there, any players listen to the podcast, just know, do not ask for yellow cards because, hey, some of your players will always be eating them. Bruno Fernandes, that's his bread and butter. That brother always been a yellow. So, yeah, it'd be stupid. Imagine getting a red card because you asked someone to get a yellow. Like, imagine getting a second yellow for that. That would be that. I cannot wait for that. That will happen this season. Someone gets a red for asking for a yellow card. Like, second yellow, gone. Pandemonium. Okay, moving forward. Crystal Palace got Rob Holding from Arsenal and Dean Henderson from United. Good for them. I think Rob Holding was a good servant for Arsenal, but I'm sure Sangi is happy to see the brother go. So good for Crystal Palace.
It's bittersweet. It's bittersweet.
Bittersweet.
I would have liked to have won the league with Rob Holding and send him off into the sunset, but the brother didn't want us to do that, so he might as well. He decided he want to win a league title. So what can you do?
Man will get old and never see it. So good for him going to Crystal Palace. Everton, they got the boy Jack Harrison from Leeds on loan and Beto from Udinese. So I mean, Everton have been pretty abysmal lately. I think you all saw what their brother Pickford was doing in the last game. For those that watched, that brother's a mess. So I am surprised they didn't get another keeper on loan or something just to help out. But yeah, Everton have been on the brink for the last few years now. I think this is the season they might actually get relegated, and they deserve it. I think Everton need a couple of more years in the Championship just to recenter themselves, because we cannot keep having them bringing a manager for the last 7 games, saving me for relegation. They've been doing that for the last 2-3 years now. Like, come on, guys, get better. So that's the Everton business. But yeah, I think Leeds have lost like most of their good players, either out on loan or sold. So I actually don't think we're going to see Leeds back in the Premier League. I'll be very, very surprised to see those brothers back, because they've lost all the good people. So I don't know. And on to Fulham. They got the boy, Timothy Castagne from Leicester, Steven Bender from Swansea City, Alex Iwobi from Everton, and Fode Ballo-Touré from AC Milan. Decent business for the boys at Fulham. I think they're actually doing it recently well, given the fact that Mitrovic left. So they did beat. Oh no, it was 2-2 with Arsenal, which was a good result for all of us. Very great. And then they actually robbed with that. They should have gotten a penalty. I guess what they're playing, was it United? I can't remember. They should have gotten a penalty in the box. Or was it Chelsea? I can't remember which team they were playing, but
Man City.
it was City, right? Yeah.
Well,
that
well, was it? Well, I'm not sure if they. Oh yeah, I think they had a pen that they didn't get. Then there was a goal that was given to someone when Ake was offside. Akanji was offside. Yeah.
Exactly. Like Fulham, I can really see why Marco Silva. I'm even surprised he didn't get a red card for like screaming at the refs, because like I would have been there. I think I'd have gone on the pitch and thrown hands, because first of all, that Akanji goal should not have stood, and secondly, that was a penalty in my opinion. Like my man had his arm out like that and it hit him, and like they were like, nope. VR was like, nah, it's all good, Didn't see that. So yeah, I feel sorry for Fulham. And I think that they're always being done dirty in the Premier League. I just think people do not like Marco Silva, because they're always talking shit about the refs and they don't like him. So they're always trying to fuck over Fulham for some reason. But what can you do? But getting Castagna and getting Iwobi, I think is good business. So good for them. Any thoughts on Fulham, boys, or we'll move on? Easy money. Liverpool, they got Wataru Endo from Stuttgart. I still don't know what position that brother plays, so maybe you brothers can educate me. And they usually don't do well with Asian players as well. That's not me trying to be racist, but they have not done well. Minamato, or whatever his name was, flopped in Liverpool. I don't think what this Endo brother thinks is going to do well. Ryan Gravenberch, I don't know. He's from Bayern. I've never heard of this brother, but what do you two boys think about these two signings?
So Endo is a 30-year-old center defensive midfielder from Stuttgart. I don't know. He's a small guy. So apparently from a stats perspective, like he literally in the last 5 years in the Bundesliga has been putting up like some very good defensive stats. So in terms of like what they looked at on the market, it was him and Liverpool's temporary sporting director who was handling the transfers this summer. Apparently just came in for the summer and is leaving at the end of he left like probably once the summer ended. He knew, he came from Borussia Mönchengladbach, I believe. So he knew like that German market very well. So he was like, oh, there's this other guy, this fourth choice you have. I'll just pull him out and we'll sign him instead. And so he just pretty much just did Stuttgart a favor there. Maybe Stuttgart will be employing him very soon. So who knows? But for the most part, he's the defensive mid. Gravenberch is more of a number 8. Very rare to see him as a number 6. Came through at Ajax as well. So maybe Erik ten Hag next summer might sign him because he does like to sign his friends over from Ajax. So he's had, I'd say, a horrific time over at Bayern. Hasn't played, never fit into the profile that Bayern had. So maybe Liverpool will get minutes, but they're still like top guys performing. I think Dominic Szoboszlai is probably going to be up there with signings of the season, as well as McAllister. So hopefully he gets minutes. They'll be playing in the UEFA Europa League. That's like their competition this year. So maybe he'll get minutes there.
Yeah, also, these are all, they've only signed midfielders, still haven't signed a defender. It's one red flag. Second red flag is the only defensive midfielder they've signed is 30. and they've signed a 30-year-old to replace someone who was, I think it was Fabinho, who was 32.
29
And
actually. It was
20,
29.
29, but he moved like he was 32. This 30-year-old is supposed to replace Fabinho. And Fabinho, like, his body literally degraded over the last 2 years because he had to cover for Trent and Van Dijk. I don't know how this 30-year-old is going to help them. And if Klopp thinks Gravenberch is going to be a capable six, he's also going to ruin his career because his body's also going to deteriorate trying to cover for these farmers. Like, I'm worried for these guys, man. I don't know, bro. Like, Endo. okay, man. Okay. We'll see.
What's that about to get ended? Endoed. But yeah, Liverpool's transfer business this summer has actually been appalling. Like, it's actually quite disgusting because they've only bought 4 players. McAllister, Szoboszlai, Endo, and Gravenberch. And those last two were like in the last week. So for a while there, they literally only had McAllister and Szoboszlai. Like, that was it. And they might potentially lose Salah, like we just spoke about. And they always have injuries. So, I mean, Van Dijk right now has got a red card. So then, like, Trent is also like, I actually don't know what they're cooking there, Liverpool. I like it because to me, it tells me that they're not going to contend for shit. So I'm happy about that, especially if they lose Salah. So that makes me happy. But anyway, moving along. Luton, Mangoro says they're the worst team in the league. I think they'll improve, I hope, because I actually hope these brothers get there. But they did sign Albert Sambi Lokonga from Arsenal and Tim Krul from Norwich City, that father. I think he's even older than most players that play at Luton. So I didn't even know Tim Krul was still playing. So anyway, they did get that brother. And they did get Ross Barkley. And I'm happy for the boy Ross. I'm happy that he finally gets to play some game time. It just sucks that he's playing for quite a whack team. But yeah, hey, as long as you get in your minutes, right? That's the important part. So that's Luton for you. And let's see where they end up.
Just real quick. Teden Mengi, the guy that signed from Man United, I do not know that brother. I do not know what his passport says, but I can promise you that's a Kenyan right there. I can guarantee you that man is Kenyan. No way your name is Teden Mengi and you're not Kenyan, bro. That's a Kenyan right there, and I'll be rooting for him. I hope he does well this year. See how he does.
Hey, let's see. We'll look out for the brother. Okay, going on. Man City, they ended up signing Matthias Nunes from Wolves, Jeremy Doku from Rennes, and Gavadio from Leipzig. They finally, I think last time we spoke, they were still working on that deal, but they now got him. I was very impressed by Doku in the last game. Seems like it's a good signing. Seems like it's going to be a good player to have on the roster. So good for them. And Matthias Nunes from Wolves always plays well. So I think Man City have actually done decent business this summer. It's not a lot, but the guys that they've brought in are going to be, of course, yeah, they're going to be good. I think they're still finding their feet, but they're already doing way better than they did last season. And they've won all their games, right? They're already on the top of the Premier League. I think they've won 4, played 4, 12 points. Yeah, they're cruising. So whoever's gonna battle for the Premier League title this year, you have to really be on it. And so far, there's no room for mistakes because Man City does not look like they'll make any. But yeah, any thoughts on City, or we can move on to United?
I'm just gonna say to all the Man City fans who keep comparing Foden to Saka, they literally keep signing guys to play in Foden's best position. Where does that man play? Where? Tell me his best position right now, because it keeps changing. When Mahrez was there, he's best in the midfield. He's best. De Bruyne goes off injured. Kovacic is playing there now, and then a few weeks into the season, they signed this guy. Like, bro, no one rates that guy, and I'm starting to wonder, like, how good is Phil Foden? I get he's got the flicks and the tricks and all that, but how good is he? How much does he contribute to winning? I'm not sure. And I feel
What's that game they played in game week 2 where Foden was absolutely killing it? Like, Foden, I think when Foden is on it, Foden is a monster. He was killing it. I think he had like what, like an assist or two, and he still didn't want to pass to the boy Haaland, but still he was killing it. Mangoro, maybe you remember the game I'm talking about,
It was
but
Newcastle.
Yeah, Newcastle.
Newcastle, but we also Foden. Like we cannot deny that brother. Like he can do whatever he wants. Yeah, I think with De Bruyne out, and to be honest, I don't know if I've said this to you boys yet, or if I've said this on the pod, but De Bruyne, they should sell him. I know we always say De Bruyne, Man City, but that brother's literally injured 3/4 of the season. They've played more games without him, and they've still managed to win. Like he'll come in for the last few games, win them, like win the tough ones at the end, and then they get the title and we're De Bruyne, best midfielder in the world. But that brother's played like a third of the games, and it's like they can live without him. So that's
But
my own opinion.
no, that's a fair point. But what I'll try and give you a picture on like the De Bruyne side is that De Bruyne comes on like the second half of the season. In these most of these competitions, you have to also think about it in terms of start and finish. It doesn't matter how you start; what matters is how you finish, and how you finish is already the most important thing. And the way when he comes on, like that second half of the season, when they're going for all the trophies or they're trying to put together like that 12 to 16 game run, he's probably at the center of it. So most of the stuff and big games he delivers. Like last year against Arsenal, against Real, all the teams they needed to beat, even Man U in the final, like he delivered on those games. So it's pretty much what they look at, and I think that's why Pep is more than reluctant to like let him like if he's injured, not rush him back. Let him like not necessarily be injured, but like let him rehabilitate properly so that he's ready for the second half of the season. And you also keep in mind that it's also his age, like he's at least in his 30s now. So of course he's not going to play the whole season, and his body like is probably like giving up on him. And this is how they manage him basically.
Also, unless Foden starts passing him the ball more, who's gonna assist Haaland? Like
Grealish and
most of
Joku.
his goals, he got most of his goals from De Bruyne last season. Like he
Yeah.
got the most number of assists from De Bruyne. So
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see, but I don't know. In my opinion, I just don't think De Bruyne is someone you should. I think at this point they should start actually looking at midfield talent. Like if they got Madison instead of Spurs, to me that would have made a lot of sense. Even though, okay, maybe not because Madison also gets injured a lot, so maybe not Madison, but something like that. I mean, I've heard that Hazard is on is a free agent right now. No one has picked him up. If I was Pep, I'd be like, yo, let's bring in the boy Hazard just for the season. Don't play him every week, but hey yo, get this man up to scratch. Hazard is still a prime player, guys. Come on, we cannot disrespect the boy Eden Hazard. As a free agent, he's not even paying money for him. Just get him.
listen, Hazard literally like, do you know? He's not playing because teams don't want him. He's not playing because he doesn't want to play. His representatives are trying to convince him not to retire, and he's like, "I'm done." So it's not even like, is he good enough? Like he doesn't want to play. So why would you
But
go
if
sign
Pep
him?
kept knocking, if Pep comes knocking, like, hey, come to City, I don't think he says no. I don't think Hazard has a reason to say no to that.
Muta, I love Dado Hazard. Dado Hazard is a cult hero there at Chelsea, but he's old now, and you're talking about O's that are signing O's that are injured. This is probably like the one that's going to be the injured the most. Like if you think De Bruyne is bad, Dado Hazard's ankles, like those Spurs defenders were tackling him when he was still in the Premier League, so he's still recovering from that. So, and he played through pain like at least like 2 to 3 years. So, I don't think the boy Hazard could actually do anything in the Premier League, even if like this maybe if they were playing against Luton, he could do something. But the rest of the Premier League, nah.
Maybe, but I'm just saying not for all games, but at least some of them, at least. But okay, so that's Man City. If we looked at Man United, they got the boy Johnny Evans from he was a free agent actually, and they got Reguilon and Amrabat from Fiorentina. So I know people cry about Man United, but that's decent business to me. Although the Johnny Evans one is not good. I mean, we also saw him against Arsenal, right? Where it was Maguire and Evans, basically Leicester from 2019, 2018, which to me seems like a regression. Like, what are you doing? Why are you buying Maguire and Evans playing together? Like, what the hell are you doing? That doesn't make sense.
Wow, I didn't even realize, bro. I did not realize we were playing 2018 last time. That is crazy.
It's madness.
That is insane. What?
Yeah, exactly. No wonder why you all won at the end of it, right?
Bro.
So crazy to me. But Amrabat, of course, it's a good buy. Let's hope they use him properly. I still don't believe in Ben Ten Hag and his coaching um, philosophy. I think he's a bully, and I think it's the worst coach Man United could have gotten. But anyway, that's my opinion. Uh, any comments on the United um, transfer window?
I think United. I mean, I'll just start by saying United have been terrible this season. And I know Ten Hag said before the season started they were switching to a more direct style, counter-attacking, all that. I get that, cool. But even if that's your focus, you have sucked. You have been terrible at doing that, and it's been hard to watch. What I will say though is that signing Amrabat is pretty good because I think he can help in that midfield next to Casemiro. In terms of defensively, he can help because he's very good at recovering. And ball progression, he's also very good at passing the ball. So maybe a bit more control there. Regulion, hey man, hey man, just for depth, bro. Just to have someone play, Carabao Cup. Like what else? Like what else are you gonna do, man? But yeah, like I know Hoyland. Hoyland looked very good yesterday in his limited minutes against Arsenal. So I think they have a team that could do okay, but I don't think United fans should expect anything big. But it's definitely, I feel like they have the potential to be better than what they have shown us with these signings. So yeah.
Yeah, no, let's see. Let's see what happens. I'm very curious to see. All right, so moving on to Newcastle here. I think the only couple of people that got in are Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento from Southampton. Mangoro, maybe. I know you love the boy Hall. I know you talked about him before. I think you said he's the future. So I don't know how you feel about him going to Newcastle on loan for the season. Maybe he can develop himself there in Newcastle, or maybe to you it doesn't matter. And at least it's one less player that Poch has to remember. But I don't know what you think about that, but that seems like good business to me from Newcastle. So
The fan base was actually very upset by that, and I do kind of agree with them. Like Lewis Hall was like the future of like that Chelsea left side because we've seen Marco Correa, he's not the answer, but Lewis Hall straight from the academy, and to them I do understand from the business side because it looked like not that it looked like it was like pure accounting profit to sell a player on like from the academy because like he was pretty much just 100% profit on the book. So that's why they sold him. And having four left backs kind of did make sense. That was going to pretty much block his pathway to the first team. But it's interesting to see him and Livramento. So two Chelsea, for the listeners out there, two Chelsea Academy Player of the Years now playing at Newcastle. They're probably going to be the future because Trippier, I don't believe in Matt Target or Dan Burn as like the wing backs for Eddie Howe or whatever manager they go for in the future. So they're pretty much going to solidify that position for themselves in the next coming years. And Sandro Tonali, actually, now people actually speak about him. He's like a major signing for Newcastle from AC Milan, funny enough.
okay, yeah, let's see. I was very impressed with Tonali actually for Newcastle. I think Sandro Tonali has been amazing. I think he's one player to watch. I know he hasn't had like necessarily the best game against Liverpool. I was very very disappointed in that Newcastle game. I ain't gonna lie. Like Newcastle was supposed to bust that and finish the game off, given the fact that Liverpool were down to 10, but they completely lost their heads and Darwin Núñez scored two, and they lost. And I was very very disappointed in those brothers. But anyway. I hope they learn something from that. Nottingham Forest always buy new players. Tavares, Dominguez, Hudson Odoi. They got Origi. They got Vlacho Dimos. They got Sangare from PSV, and then they got Omar Bomidele from Norwich. So I don't know why. Elanga actually looks like it's coming good. He actually scored against Chelsea. So it looks like Nottingham Forest are figuring their shit out for the most part. So let's see how it goes. But I'm happy that Hudson Odoi. I think we're talking about this, right? Like where Chelsea actually did some terrible business with that brother. Like who wanted him in Germany for 60 mil and they sold him to Nottingham Forest for what, for 3 mil or something like that?
Bayern Munich put an offer on the table for 35 million in 2020, and these men said no and offered him a new contract. I think it was what, like 120k or 200. Like it was a lot of money for his age. Obviously, he took it, got injured, did not play him, and loaned him to Leverkusen. Did not play there. Now this is where he's at. That man's life could have been very different if he just went to Bayern that time. Very, very different.
Mangoro, do you agree with that?
Yes. Now looking back, like maybe I'm pretty sure we would have taken the money and probably bought like the Brennan Johnson of the time. So maybe we did the right thing by keeping him. He did get some minutes there playing, but I think it actually got to a point where it was almost like 80 million. Like in terms of like, I think what Chelsea were mainly annoyed by was the structure of the deal. Like they wanted to do a loan with the option to buy for 80 million at the end, whereas Chelsea wanted to do either a full. Well, actually, they were mainly looking at like probably if you do a loan, it should be an obligation to buy for the set at that price. It's not that when the loan ends and it's performed poorly, you then decide, no, actually, we're not going to sign him for this price. So they wanted to set the price early, and you know how Bayern now they don't do such deals. So that was primarily why we kept him, and now he's moved on to Nottingham Forest for a tenth of what we could have gotten for him about 3-4 years ago.
Chelsea business. They love losing money, those brothers. It's okay. It's okay. That's their standard. Moving on to Sheffield United, they got McAtee from Man City. I think people are not happy about that for some reason. From what I've seen, they got Luke Thomas from Leicester and Cameron Archer from Aston Villa. And Tom Davis was a free agent. Archer seems like a good buy because, I mean, he is a decent striker, just never got the minutes at Aston Villa. So he looks like he's already coming good. He had 2 goal contributions in the last game, so good for him. And yeah, James McAtee, I think, is a youth that I think Man City just loaned them out to Sheffield, so he gets some game time. But yeah, that's Sheffield United for you. So let's see how that plays out for them. I think they are currently Sheffield United is currently 17th. So yeah, they are on the brink, but what can you do? They've drawn a game, so it is what it is, right? Moving on, let's just move on to Spurs. Spurs, we got Brennan Johnson from Nottingham Forest, Ashley Phillips from Blackburn Rovers, Van der Vaart from Wolfsburg, which I'm quite excited to see, and Alejo Veliz from Rosario Central. And of course, James Maddison has been proving to be good business. The boy has been almost at every goal contribution is there, so I'm happy about that. So yeah, Spurs, we killed 5-1 Burnley. We're sitting second at the table, as we said. We've won 3 out of 4 games, drawn the other. Oh, did we lose? Let's see. Can't remember. But anyway, I am very happy. Actually, yeah, we've won 3 and drawn 1. So Spurs, so far so good. As a Spurs fan, I'm still not necessarily like, thinking when I win the league or anything. But I'm hoping for a top 6 finish. That's where my expectation is for this season. So I'm not delusional just yet. If we're at game week 20 and we're still second or something, then oh yeah, I'm gonna start talking shit. But for now, top 6. That's all I can hope for. So very happy with Spurs business. Son scored a hat trick for the first time in a minute, and very happy for him. So I think we're going in the right direction, and can't wait to see what more we can do.
Can you speak on, just as a Spurs supporter, the major signing, Brennan Johnson?
Hey, you know what? I'm actually happy with Brennan because obviously Richarlison can't do it. Richarlison is his waste, and he's not gonna turn up the way we expect him to turn up. And Brennan Johnson has actually scored at Nottingham Forest before, and even in the tough games, like last season, the last few games, he was actually putting up numbers. I think it was either scoring or assisting pretty much the last 10 games of last season. And he's youthful. He actually has decent finishing on him, decent speed. I think he will marry well with Son, Madison. I think he'll give different outlets, Kulusevski. So I ain't gonna lie to you, Mangoro. I am very excited about the boy Johnson. I've always rated him as a striker. I know you guys say he's a babyface attacker. Maybe it's like Dele Ali 2.0, but I believe in the boy. I ain't gonna lie. I believe in the boy.
Man, Richarlison, 60 M's, 1 goal.
Flop.
Literally 1 goal. Let me check the number of appearances. 31. 1 goal, 3 assists. Jesus. Horrific. Horrific.
Then let's not talk about Pepe, Samson. I can talk about Pepe as well. So
You want me to pull up Pepe's stats? Like, people actually think Pepe has bad stats. Pepe has really good stats, Let me pull them up.
once we pull those stats up, maybe I'll go to West Ham.
Pepe for
Okay.
Arsenal, total games, he's on, what's this? Quick math. 80 games. He has 16 goals and 8 and 9 assists in the league in 80 games.
That's not
There are
great.
some brothers.
Samson.
It's not great, but there are some brothers who cannot hold a candle to that, who cannot even come close to that. So Pepe, like, if you're not comparing Charles to someone, you should be comparing him to Sancho and Anthony. That's his competition, and he doesn't even clear those guys. He's not even close to those guys, so he cannot even touch Pepe. So please, there's levels. There's levels to flops, bro. And us, we have a top tier flop, bro. Top tier.
I mean, okay, so we'll see. Okay, moving on to West Ham. Actually, West Ham had one of the most surprising business in Mohamed Kudus from Ajax. They signed the boy. I thought Kudus was actually going to go to Man United. I'm surprised that they didn't snatch him up. And I've already seen Ward-Prowse has been a very, very instrumental part in West Ham's game. With those set pieces, that boy's foot is unmatched. He can put a cross in, that brother. He can put in a cross. Puts David Beckham to shame. So but I'm very excited to see Kudus play, and I think it's gonna go well with him, Bowen, Antonio, with Ward-Prowse in the middle there. And I think it's a good move, but I am surprised that he went to West Ham. That I will not lie about. I'm actually very surprised, because at the beginning of this, we used to think that West Ham were in trouble because they sold Rice and then replaced him. But it seems that Moyes had a plan. So I don't know. Maybe they need a bit more faith. Were you boys surprised by the Kudus business, or was it just me?
Everyone pretty much was, because, like, just to give you context, Brighton actually did agree a fee with Ajax for Kudus for around £34.5 million, and then for some odd reason that deal never went through. I think maybe he was not happy with, like, the terms of, like, how the contracts and things like that was going to be structured, and then he decided that Brighton wasn't the one. And then, funny enough, West Ham actually paid, I think, in the region of between 43.5 to like 48 million pounds to actually get him. So I think the bidding war that ensued after that kind of drove the price up. But I do want to ask Samson about Konstantinos Mavropanos. He knows him very well. He actually went over to Stuttgart, revived his career. Now he's back, going to West Ham for about 25 million. So the money West Ham were going to spend on Harry Maguire, they ended up spending on Konstantinos Mavropanos.
Yeah, West Ham actually paid us some money back for the Rice deal. They didn't know it, but they had to. That's we had a nice salon fee in there. But yeah, Mavropanos, I think he's a good signing. He's a very West Ham signing, and all of these are West Ham signings. Like Edson Alvarez, saw him his first game he played. Great defensive midfielder for West Ham. Ward-Prowse, set pieces, him and Souček. I mean, that's like 10, 12 goals. I think Souček might be in the double figures this year. Kudus is the only one where I feel like that's a little weird because Kudus, like he was going from like a high possession team, always with the ball, always doing something with the ball, like has all this freedom to do stuff, to a very structured team where like for like I mean you saw against I think it was Brighton, uh they scored 3 goals with like 60 passes. Like that's ridiculous. Like and that's over the course of like 60 minutes of game time. 60 passes, 3 goals. Like Kudus has not played in a team like that, I don't think. So I feel like it's going to be a bit of a, it's going to take some time for him to adapt to that. Whether he'll be good for them, I really don't know. Just because it takes a certain kind of player to like adapt to that kind of environment where like you're comfortable not having the ball, comfortable defending, and just playing on the counter attack. But yeah, we'll see how that goes because that guy is destined for big things. And I just hope David Moyes doesn't ruin him because David Moyes ruins things. And you just, I never trust David Moyes with good players. Like the other guys, I trust him with because it makes sense. Alvarez, defensive mid. Mavropanos, strong, big center back. Ward-Prowse, set pieces. Kudus, nah. Dribbler, a skillful guy, through balls, like Jogo Bonito kind of player. Man,
I don't know, Sangi. I think Kudus actually is gonna be good. I don't know what it is, but the fact that Antonio plays well, I think Kudus is exactly what they need. I think Bowen is about to go fucking crazy with those assists and those goals because him and Kudus up there. I don't know, Sangi. I can just see it. I can feel it in my bones.
I feel like
Kudus is about to go crazy.
Brighton would have been so much better for him, but I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, I hope it works out for him. But we'll see.
Could Kudus at West Ham be Gianluca Scamacca all over again, 2.0? Because last season...
I don't think so.
Exactly.
Scamacca was linked with PSG last season, and he went to West Ham, and he's in Italy now. No one even knows what team he plays for in Italy.
Now, I think Scamacca is a different kind of player. I think a player like Kudus, I don't know. I think Moyes just respects black players a lot more too. I think that's what it is. I think it's not gonna do him like that. We all know Moyes' relationship with black players. He just loves them. Even his daughter loves them. So I think that's just what it is. So don't worry about the boy Kudus. Don't worry about the boy Kudus. He'll be good. He'll be good. Okay, and finally, let's move on to Wolves. Not too much to say. Matt Doherty, it's interesting. He left Wolves for Spurs, went to Atletico, now he's back at Wolves. So he did a little round around the world there a little bit. And I think there was Santiago Bueno from Girona, Tommy Doyle from Man City on loan, and Jean Rickner Belgrade from Strasbourg. A lot of German players have come in the Premier League this season. I'll be very interested to see how they hang. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's okay from Wolves. They didn't really assign. I don't think they really signed. I don't know which one of these guys is an attacker, but I don't know.
This is terrible business.
Terrible business, right?
This is terrible business. Like, you don't lose Neves, Moutinho, Nunes, Diego Costa. He wasn't that great, but Raul Jimenez as well. And you're telling me these are the guys you're replacing them with? No chance. This is horrible. Like, this is just not. Adama also left. Chiquinho left. Like, there's no way they're going to do anything this season.
The funny thing is they're so horrible, but Man United couldn't really beat them until they had to cheat to beat Wolves. Like, that's how I knew Man United were trash. They struggled with Wolves, and then when Wolves went to Brighton, they got their ass handed to them. Like, I was like, wow, Man United are actually so bad.
I think Tommy Doyle is supposed to be a pretty decent young striker, if I'm not mistaken.
Like, I know one called Tommy is going to be a decent striker. Is he a Power Ranger or some shit? Like, what the hell?
I think he's been doing, because he's a Man City guy. I think he's highly rated in Man City. So maybe he does well. I don't know. But other than him, I don't see who's a good signing.
Again, there's not been a good Tommy out there since the Green Ranger, my guy. So I don't know. I don't know if there's anything that's gonna happen for the boy Tommy Doyle. So
Especially like
we'll
that.
have to see.
Matt Doherty couldn't live with this failure at Spurs and Atletico, and he literally just went back to Wolves. That's crazy, man.
It's crazy. That's some crazy in a couple of years even. It's not like he came back as a legend. He just
Yeah,
literally just came back like
just came back on his hands and knees, man. Needed a job. Tough, fucking tough,
that is tough. It's
bro.
actually quite embarrassing. So it's
Yeah,
like that guy. Who was that guy at Fulham? Palminha was supposed to go to Bayern, did the whole press conference, did all that shit, and for the deal to fall through, and now he has to go back to Fulham with his hands in his hands on his knees.
yeah.
Bro, I actually don't know what I would do with myself as a footballer. Like, is he heartbroken because he didn't get to go to Bayern? But then he has to look at his teammates in the eye, like, okay, guys, I'm back. I know I said fuck y'all, but here I'm at. Like, forgive me. Or, how does that go?
Hey, man. For the next 6 months, he has to act like nothing happened, bro. At least 6 months. Who knows? He might be there forever. Who knows?
Oh, because he has to make it until January, maybe. And, like, hopefully there's
Yeah.
someone else to get him in Jan. Like, but I don't know. I don't know. Well, it's been an hour 25. I know we had some other things that we wanted to maybe potentially chat about, but I'm not sure if our listeners are still trying to listen to us for the next, because all the other stuff has big things. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we can just quickly talk about the Champions League and the group draws and our opinions on what we think about them. I know Mangoro has some opinions about, is it Group E? And so, yeah, I think maybe we can have a little chat about the Champions League, and since they did have the draw, and we'll see what happens then. But I'll hand it over to you, Mangoro, to kind of lead us a little bit in the Champions League draw for the next couple of minutes.
Yes, I can definitely lead the Champions League segment here. So, brothers, we want to just go through all the Champions League groups so that all our listeners know what happened in the Champions League draw, who's playing who, who's not in the Champions League this year. Spurs, Chelsea, and Liverpool, and a few others. Just to point it out there, Arsenal have returned. Funny enough, they're in the Champions League. So, we'll just go from top to bottom. Just quick view on like the two teams that we think will all progress from each group. So starting with Group A, we have Bayern Munich with Harry Kane, Manchester United, Copenhagen from Denmark, and Galatasaray. I think this one is going to be straightforward. I do see Bayern obliterating the competition there, including the likes of Manchester United. So Harry Kane goals at Old Trafford, I do see those coming in. So I think, but I still do maintain that Bayern and Man U will go through. I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Mutsa, and then Samson, you can weigh in there.
I know that's the way it looks right now is the way it's going to end. So I'm with you. Bayern United, Copenhagen, Galatasaray. That's it. That's it.
I mean, Bayern for sure, but don't sleep on Galatasaray yet, gents. Don't sleep, because I mean, I've seen those Manchester boys. Man, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Zaha could have something to say about. Wait, is he a Galatasaray or is he at Fenerbahce?
He's a Galatasaray. Hakim Ziyech is a Galatasaray. Mauro Icardi apparently is back to his Inter form at Galatasaray.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, man.
So moving on, we have Group B. Apparently, it's been dubbed the Europa League group. We have Sevilla, Arsenal, PSV, and RC Lens from the French league. I do think when I look at this group, Arsenal will go through, and I think this is where my shock will come in. I think Lens might go through, and then Sevilla will go to the Europa League, and they'll do their specialty there. So, Samson, over to you.
Actually, I was gonna say Arsenal Sevilla, but then I remembered, of course, Sevilla. Of course they're gonna drop out and go to Europa League and win it, and go harass Manchester United and they will also go to the Europa League, of course. So yeah, so I am with you, Lens and Arsenal.
I'd actually say Arsenal PSV. That's my opinion on that actually. So yeah, go ahead.
Plus, and then in Group C we have Napoli, we have Real Madrid, we have Braga from Portugal and Union Berlin. I think they're making their Champions League debut, out of the German league. But I still maintain that Real Madrid will win this group, and then Napoli will finish second. Mr. Mori, over to you.
I'm with you, Mangoro. That's how it ends. Madrid, Napoli. The rest, those two, Braga, Braga, Braga. I don't know if Nadia Nakai is the one who owns the team, or if that's where she gets her rap name from, but nothing more to mention there. Union Berlin sounds like something from the 1940s. I don't know what they're doing in the Premier League. I think our boy Adolf would have been happy. I'm pretty sure he named that team. So with that, I think I don't want to see them again back in the Premier League. So yep, I think
Champions League. Champions League.
Whatever the case may be, nothing called Union Berlin should be anywhere near us right now. What's the Union for? Let's move on.
My boy Detro Fofana plays there, so put some respect on him.
Oh yeah, his boy Detro Fofana plays there. Is he on loan or did he join permanently?
He's on loan. He's part of the loan army.
Hey man, that loan army, man. I thought y'all dismantled it, but it was made it back again, man. Stronger than ever. I think you guys are right. Real, Napoli. I'm going to say Union in the Europa League, Braga out of the competition entirely.
Great stuff. One Group D now. Interesting group here. We have Benfica. We have the Champions League runners-up from last season, Inter Milan, RB Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. Spanish correspondents say Sociedad could do something in the Champions League. I don't know. I don't watch them. But I do kind of have an inkling that Inter could win this group, even though they're not the greatest. And then probably maybe Benfica. Actually, no, I don't fully trust in Benfica. They saw all their talent. So I'll kind of say Inter and Sociedad on this one. I hand it to you, Mr. Sampson, and then Mr. Mori.
Yeah, my thinking is the same. I don't think Salzburg is going to do anything in this group. But yeah, I'm also not sure about Benfica or Sociedad. I think one of them will come out. I'll just say Sociedad because Benfica, yeah, we've sold a lot of talent again. Who knows if they'll be competitive? So yeah.
I would actually say Inter and Salzburg. I know that's my wild take on that, but I think Salzburg. I think they'll pull it out the hat. I don't think Sociedad and Benfica will Benfica will probably go to Europa, and then Sociedad will be taken out.
Got it. And now it's the group of jokes. Like, I think this is probably the worst Champions League group I've ever seen in my life. It has Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, Lazio, and Celtic. I'll keep it short and brief there. Atletico, Lazio.
I agree.
Same.
Plus, from a negative thing to something more positive, the group of death. People have been talking about this. If you go back and listen to my predictions, I did mention that I think Newcastle may go out in the Champions League group stages. I think this is what I was referring to. So you should listen to the First Brothers podcast. They drop bars. But I think in this group, I think I see AC Milan and PSG going through. PSG has revamped like the entire front line. They've taken out all the toxic brothers and they have different profile of players now. I think they'll still go through. Dortmund, they'll be unfortunate, but I still maintain that Milan will definitely go through. I think they've recruited well. They've cleared all the deadwood from Chelsea, so I think that deadwood will take them far. So, Mr. Mozart, Group F.
Group F, I am going for PSG and Newcastle. I think my boy Eddie Howe will make sure. He will make sure, and I think they'll make it. I think Dortmund and Milan will be knocked out, unfortunately. I don't think there's anything in Dortmund that's powerful enough. And Milan, it's Milan at the end of the day. We know what they like to do. So they're not going to make it. Dortmund, PSG, Newcastle.
As my boy Mangoro likes to say, man, my boy Eddie Howe under the UCL lights, he's not make sure, bro. He is not make sure. I do not see those brothers doing anything, man. I think Mangoro is spot on. Newcastle, Mangoro, I actually give it to you, man. Like, when you say some of these things, sometimes I think, man, Mangoro is just going off on one of these things. But you called it, man. Newcastle, fourth place in this group. I can see it, bro. I don't see them. Like I wouldn't even be shocked if they didn't win a single game. Like I would not be shocked because it's a different, beast. Playing twice a week, playing teams that you've hadn't had a chance to play like basically ever. Like which one of these players that they have played teams like this, apart from like maybe Isaac and Tonali. That's about it.
And
So
Bruno.
and Bruno, like other than those guys, like there's zero experience in dealing with these kinds of teams, playing twice a week. So yeah, PSG, Milan, I can see it.
Yeah, just to give you a bit of context on that group, Dan Burn versus Kylian Mbappe, who's coming out on top? Like those are the matchups who are kind of envisioning in this particular group.
Hey, put some respect, my boy Dan Burn. Okay, put some respect.
Yo, it's Dan Burn versus Mbappe, or Dan Burn versus Dembele. It's pick one, and
Or
if
Kolo
it's
Muani.
or Kolo Muani, or Dan Burn versus Adeyemi at Dortmund, or Dan Burn versus Gio Reyna at Dortmund, or Dan Burn versus Christian Pulisic, or Dan Burn versus Rafa Leao. Like none of these are good matchups, bro. He gets destroyed by all of those guys, guaranteed. It's not looking
Hey,
good.
he's gonna cook. Don't worry, he's gonna cook.
Moving on here, last two groups here, we have Group G. We have Man City, Leipzig. I don't know what this is called. This is Rena Zvezda. That doesn't sound like a soccer team to me. I know it's not going through. Young boys from Switzerland. I still maintain Leipzig. They may have sold the entire team, but they've recruited well. Xavi Simons, Openda, Benjamin Sesko. I think they'll go through here. And Man City, defending champions, they'll probably win this by 18 points and pretty much just cruise to the knockout stages.
I'm with that. That's it. Really.
Yeah, Mongoro, you said you didn't know what to call this. I call this corruption. Okay. Reigning champs get such a group. I mean, Leipzig are just coming back for their annual 12-0 aggregate loss to Man City. Man, get the hell out of here anyway from that. Get the hell out of here with this group, bro. This is corruption, man. Enough. Bro.
And then our last group here, we have Group H. We have FC Barcelona, or should we say Spotify Barcelona. We have Porto, we have Shakhtar Donetsk, and Royal Antwerp out of Belgium. I think Porto and Barca are going to go through here. I don't know if they're playing soccer in Ukraine right now. And Royal Antwerp recently appointed a very weird coach. If you go and check out who they appointed, you'll see why. I forget his name, but I know it's someone that is not. I think it's Mark Van Bommel, actually. Mark Van Bommel. He doesn't inspire any confidence. So to me, like he's just there for the show, basically. So that's for me the two teams that will go through from this group.
I was even surprised Barcelona is in the Champions League again. I was very surprised. It's like, how did you guys end up here? So yeah, I do think it'll be Barca and Porto, but I wish it'd be like Shakhtar and Porto. I don't want to see Barca anywhere near the Champions League. I think, given the fact that they used to cheat all those years back ago, they should be banned from the Champions League for like the next decade. So anyway, yeah, I think it's Barca and Porto.
Yeah, man, don't get me started on Barcelona and cheating, man. It's 2005, 2006. We'll never forget, man. We will never forget what they did to us. But yeah, Barca, Porto, standard. Those are the teams, no chance.
And that concludes the Champions League segment. I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Mori, to close it out and to let our listeners go enjoy the rest of the things they need to do in their lovely lives.
Wait, Mr. Mongoro, thank you for leading that segment. So, listener, I hope that was a very informative session on the Champions League. I think the first Champions League game is taking place on, let's see here. They are playing on September 19th. We're getting Milan and Newcastle. So, check out for that. I think, so on the September 19th, we've got Milan, Newcastle, Young Boys, Leipzig, PSG plays Dortmund, Shakhtar plays Porto, City plays Sverna Zvezda. That's probably going to be an 8-0 game. Lazio, Atletico, Barcelona, Antwerp. So yeah, look out for that weekend. Bayern is playing Man United on September 20. Now that's gonna be an interesting game, and I hope my boy Harry Kane scores a hat trick. And yeah, so look out for that. So that's when the Champions League games start. But with that, boys, been a good episode, listener. I hope you've enjoyed. Again, we try to bring all the information jam packed into one. So if it's too long for you, listener, just break it down. Like, maybe listen 20 minutes, take a break, come back, listen another 20 minutes, break, come back. It's like a four-piecer. So, yeah, Streetwise 4, if I may say. So, yeah, just take it in bits and pieces if you want to. But anyway, I'll let my boy say goodbye here. Start with the boy singing over to the boy Mangoro, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, dear listener, apparently, like a Streetwise 4, I hope you enjoy this episode of the Forest Brothers podcast. Once again, man, it's been great to be back. It's not easy taking these breaks, because we do enjoy what we're doing. We do enjoy interacting with you guys, bring you this content. Hopefully we can, like the brother Maury said, we can be a bit more consistent once we figure out our schedules and how things are working. But yeah, it's great, always great to be here delivering the content, to be here with my brothers, discussing the game, discussing culture, discussing a whole range of things, having guests on. And yeah, I'm very grateful that you guys have given us the platform to keep doing this, and I hope you stick with us as we keep going. But yeah, well, yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys on the next one.
So, as our brothers have mentioned here, Team Streetwise 4 is here. Apparently, we should watch it in 4 pieces. I don't want to watch it in 4 pieces. Just want to mention 4 critical things that our listeners should do, and all pretty much our subscribers. They should definitely like, comment, subscribe, and share the Forest Brothers podcasts. Definitely in camera. So those 4 are the things you do. Now, apparently, I can't do my 3 E's anymore, so I have to do these 4. So definitely do that to all our Spotify and Apple Podcast listeners. Be sure to tune in, turn on notification bells, do all that good stuff that people say. You probably watch videos and people talking about this. So I won't repeat it. You know what you need to do, listeners. We believe in you. Let's get the word out there. Forest Brothers is back, and back with a bang. And thank you, listener, and enjoy the weekend.
Indeed. Thank you, Mangoro. And yes, listener, don't forget, subscribe, comment, share, subscribe again. So thank you all for that. And thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We love it. And we'll catch you on the next one. So peace out.